Welcome back. You're watching Buy Now, Sell Now on ET Now, a show where we get you answers for all of your stock-related queries. Remember, viewers, you can connect to us live on the WhatsApp number that'll be flashing on your screen. Do remember, each time you write to us, mention your name, the stock that you're looking to invest in, mention that name as well. Along with that, mention the buy price, the quantity, as well as the time horizon that you're looking to hold the stock in case you've already purchased that particular counter. With that, our experts will be able to help you better. Talking about experts today, we have Lancelot D Cunha joining us on the fundamentals, while on the technicals, we have Kush Bohra on the show. Once again, good morning to both of you gentlemen. And let me take the first query coming in from Malika, who's writing to us from Mumbai. And she wants to know about long-term investments coming in for HBL Power as well as Som Distilleries. What's your take coming in on both of these counters, Lancelot? Do you think they're worth a buy for the long term right now?
HBL Power has gone up significantly over the last 6 months, 1 year, and while the results have also been reasonably good, the valuations are a little bit stretched at this point in time, and rather than buying it at high valuations, if you're already holding, you can continue to hold. But if you're looking to buy or add to the portfolio, you might want to wait for a bit of dip in the price and then you buy, because then your margin of safety remains higher, and then you can actually benefit from it. As far as Som Distillery is concerned, unfortunately, I don't have any coverage on the stock, so I'm not able to really give you an opinion on whether you should be able to invest in it or not at this point in time.
All right, then moving on to the next query, and this query is coming in from Krishna. And Kush, he wants an advice on Asian Paints. He's holding 60 shares and his buy price is 2,930 rupees. What is the expected target for the next 3 to 6 months?
Well, I think, after a very long period of consolidation and a bit of an underperformance before that, the stock's now finally seeing, a bit of a turnaround. I think from a 3 to 6 month perspective, there is a very good possibility that the stock could head to 3,100, a little above that, could be the first target. So 3,100 should act as your first level. Beyond that, I think there is, a good run up until 3,250 before any kind of supply pressure comes in. So I think 3,100, 3,250 is, other levels rather to watch for. And on the downside, I think 2,900 is a good support. So, maybe just under the buying price, but 2,900 is a good support zone, so that should act as your stop loss from here on.
Look at the bank Nifty, because as we speak, 1400 points recovery coming in from the day's lowest point for the Nifty Bank, 3% up move from the day's low. Right now, 2% up move coming in on an intraday basis for Nifty Bank. So sharp spike coming in the markets, which is underway right now. But let's talk about heavyweight, and that is Reliance Industries. The query coming in from Pratik, he has 180 shares of Reliance from the levels of 1,500 rupees per share. Should he look to hold, book profits, or invest some more in a new buy? What's your take coming in on this one, Kush, coming in for Reliance Industries in particular? A few days ago, it hit a record high levels on Monday itself. Then it's come off from those levels, given the fact that we saw a correction in the market as well. What's your take now in Reliance Industries? The viewer is sitting on profits. Should he go ahead and deploy some more money in Reliance Industries right now, or just book profits?
Well, Cheryl, this is my kind of averaging, where you're averaging on the upside, also known as pyramiding, by the way. So he's sitting on a very neat profit. 1,500 is an excellent, buy price. The stock's consolidating, but I think the bias here will remain bullish. So at this level, as you rightly said, at the stock off the high levels, so perhaps this dip should be taken as an entry opportunity. So from my perspective, Reliance Industries at the current dip is a buy. On the upside, we're looking at 3,000 as the near-term, level to touch. But beyond that, 3,250 is also something that this stock could head to by the end of the year. So Reliance Industries is very much an add at the current level.
All right, moving on Lancelot, the next query that I have is coming from Venkat Ramani from Bangalore, and he wants your advice on L&T. Even today, the stock has was under pressure at the start of the day. It's seen some recovery now, but what's your view on this counter? And Venkat Ramani wants to know that is this a good price to enter? And his holding period is over 1 year, so what should be the expectation on that front?
Holding period is over 1 year. One should definitely look at adding L&T to the portfolio, because if you look at the growth that we saw, both in its order book as well as in execution, And you shouldn't forget that, while there may be a focus on providing rural India some amount of money or SOPs in order to, which might boost consumption, it's not that the infrastructure spend is going to be, it's not at the expense of the infrastructure spend. So since the government is committed on growing the infrastructure, of the country, I'm sure L&T is going to be a major beneficiary for the same. And in terms of execution, they are one of the most the efficient executioners. As far as projects are concerned, they have got fairly good margins on their projects, which are in excess of 20%. So their return ratio is also very healthy. Return on capital is healthy. So one definitely should look at adding L&T into the portfolio even at this price.
So take the next query that is coming in from Kaushik Mitra, and he wants to know about Adani Power. Is it the best time now to go ahead and re-enter this particular stock? Kush, with a actually time horizon of about 1 year or so. I'm not sure if he already had the counter and he's exited. The fact that he's saying re-enter, I'm guessing that's the kind of strategy that he's trying to adopt for Adani Power. Do you think these levels are good for Adani Power, or some more dip is required for a fresh entry?
Michelle, first, let me just put the word out that there is a possibility that the volatility in these stocks could very well continue till we have clarity on the government formation and the way forward, and we are, I think, fairly aware of all of that. So if the volatility is something that he can digest, his portfolio can take on the chin, then I think this is perhaps a good level to enter. The stop loss here comes in at the 20-day moving average, which is close to the 670 mark. I think overall we're very constructive on the power space. No matter what happens, these stocks will continue to continue to do well. So with that stop loss of 670 in mind, and on the upside the targets being 750 and 780, Adani Power, after this dip does look a little attractive. But mind you, the volatility could perhaps stay for at least a day or two, if not more.
All right, that's the take coming in on Adani Power. But moving on then, and the next query that I have is coming in from a viewer on Engineers India, and Kush, he specifically wants your advice on this. Engineers India as well as Kochi Shipyard, are these good bets to enter right now? He's looking for a swing trade out here with the next 3 to 5 months investment horizon. This query is coming from Achar from Madurai.
So, very similar view that I mentioned just a while ago, which is that, I am constructive on some of these names. I think the selling that happened was perhaps, a bit overdone. So should you go out and buy, maybe not the entire quantity, just yet, because, we've seen some revival from lower levels in some of these names. Is the worst over? Perhaps I would give it, a certain, probability that, perhaps the worst is over in these names. But, you can never be too sure. So my suggestion would be go out, you could buy, but perhaps, 30 to 50% of the quantity that you intend to, the rest you could buy over the next couple of days. For Cochin Shipyard, I could suggest, a stop loss at the 1660 mark, slightly deep, but, that's how you'll have to be, where you will have to place your stop loss. And on Engineers India, the 200-day mark, 190 is a good support zone. The stock rebounded from there. So these levels should act as your stop loss. And yes, you could deploy 50% of your capital, in these stocks, today at least, and then going forward, and as the stocks move higher, you could deploy the rest.
So take coming in on those counters. But on that note, we slip into a break in this edition of Buy Now, Sell Now. When we come back, we'll continue taking all of the stock-related queries. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to Buy Now, Sell Now, and let's keep it going with all your stock-related queries then. And the next query, Kush, that I have is coming in from on NMDC. This query is coming from a viewer. He actually didn't share his name, but NMDC 720 call option for the June expiry. That price is around 13.5 rupees. Do you believe that it is a good buy at the current levels?
NMDC, what strike price did you mention, Shishti?
70 call option for the June expiry itself.
No, I'm not sure. 270 is it?
Yes, 270, 30 rupees higher.
No, it's not reflecting on the 270 call is perhaps about 4 rupees or odd something. So not entirely sure, if I've got the contract right. But on the whole, and if you ask me, is it a good idea to buy the NMDC call option, assuming that you're a professional or an expert, options trader? It's not a bad idea. The stock's seeing a very smart recovery, along with some of the other PSU names. So if you do go long on this stock, have a stop loss, very tight in place. We do see the stock hitting 246 and perhaps even a 255, in the coming days. And on the downside, the support comes in at 235. So these are the levels for the stock. I didn't get the contract right, so I'm sorry, can't help you exactly with that trade.
Uh, let me take this query, and in fact, let me get view from both of our experts on this, because this one is from Sunita, who's writing to us from Hyderabad, and I'm sure that we will be having a lot of other viewers just like Sunita who may have invested all or chunk of their money into the PSU counters. So Sunita has names in PSU banks like PNB, SBI, Canara Bank. She's invested in defense like BHEL, BEL, as well as apart from that, she's also invested in power and infra sector stocks as well, which are PSU counters, suffering a loss of about 15% or so. What's your take coming in on these counters, Lancelot, as well as Kush? Lancelot, first your take. For the long term, do you think the story is intact, not to be perturbed with what is happening exactly in the market correction, given the fact that, yes, these stocks had actually run up ahead of themselves, isn't it?
Well, many of the stocks have run up ahead of their valuations, and they were driven by momentum. And now we are seeing that momentum on the reverse side. However, one has to be careful that when you're again deciding to add to the stocks, you have to look at the the profitability of those businesses and what is the kind of growth potential they have and the return on capital that they are generating, or the return on equity that they are generating. So if you look at the companies that were announced, the companies like BEL, they have generated higher growth, higher return on capital. They are more efficient in their businesses, and they require a lot less working capital than maybe some of the more capital intensive businesses like, let's say, Mazgon Docks and things like that. In terms of banking, one has to look at which are the most efficient banks, both in usage of capital, what kind of net interest margins they have, and what kind of NPAs they have. So obviously, State Bank of India is ranks very high in this bracket because their interest margins are the lowest. They have the highest CASA ratio among most of the PSU banks, and also they have become technology savvy, where most of their banking is now moved to digital platforms, and that means the overhead cost comes down in terms of the cost per branch, etc. So they're able to leverage the infrastructure they have better than some of the other banks. So while you cannot rule out that there are good opportunities amongst the PSU space, one has to do a little bit of research on individual companies and identify those like State Bank of India, BEL, which actually provide good value, and one has to accumulate these over a period of time, because the long term story is still there, because defense is not going anywhere. The PSU sector per se is going to be a major player in many of the areas, so one should stay invested, but you need to be careful about which companies you're investing in.
Right. Be careful of which companies you're investing in, but yes, do your due diligence on the fundamentals when it comes to the companies. But yes, PSU in the long run will benefit. What's your take coming in on these counters, Kush, right now? Because Sunita wants to know that is there any scope for a bounce back in the near future for all these counters?
Bright one. There is a lot of these names, while they were actually running high on fumes, perhaps towards the end because of the high valuations. Even on the technical front, if you see, a stock like SBI hitting an RSI of what 76, 78 is also overheating, right? I mean, you wouldn't want to wait for the conventional level of 80. Now, this was this was the case in a lot of defense names as well. My take is that with this correction, I think this becomes a good entry point. I know a lot of the investors were already invested very quite invested, perhaps at slightly higher levels, and hence the pain. But if you ask me, perhaps this is a good time to reconsider, averaging some of these names. You might want to wait for a day for clarity, but I think a rebound in some of these names is very much around the corner. I don't see the trajectory going for a toss. It's just that this is a big blip, but the upside will resume on these stocks fairly soon.
Right, so that's the take coming in on the PSU counters as a whole. But let's again.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.